Welcome to the Shamrock Green Room, your favorite podcast highlighting everything about Scotus Central Catholic and Columbus Catholic schools. Each episode, we discuss what it's like to be a Shamrock. Whether that is a current student, a teacher, an alum, or supporter, we want to hear your stories on why this is such a special place in education. I'm your host, Jon Brezenski, 1998 graduate, former boys head soccer coach, assistant football coach, and current assistant coach for the girls soccer program. Today, I'm joined by John Petersen, former volleyball and girls basketball coach, current assistant girls basketball coach, and longtime teacher in the math department. He is also a state and national Hall of Fame coach, as well as a 2014 inductee into the Scotus Hall of Fame. This is part 2 of our interview with Coach Petersen. Part 1 of the series, which was recorded in the summer with Taylor Dahl and just dropped this week, covered Coach Petersen's background growing up in Iowa, his road from Northern Iowa University into his early teaching and coaching career, beginning at Newcastle, and his road to Scotus. Coach, you guys went through the 80s and 90s and touched on your runs in volleyball, from the early setbacks in the state tournament, the semis and finals, with close matches to schools like Norris and Ogallala and GICC. You also discussed the run of the 90s in basketball, including that 95 state final with Hastings Adams Central. Those losses in some of those sports early on helped set up the memorable runs of the three-peats from 95 through 98 in both sports and set up what we're going to talk about today into the 2000s. In part 2, we're going to pick up on your career at Scotus in those early 2000s, through your retirement, what you're currently doing to keep you busy. Coach Petersen, thank you for coming in today for part 2.
You're welcome, John.
It's kind of been a long time in the making, but it was really exciting to listen to part 1 drop this week. And I'm really excited to talk to you today. This will be fun.
Well, I listened to it yesterday, too, and I said Amari did a great job of editing, so it made me sound halfway literate.
So we're gonna kind of jump right in here. So you step away as the head basketball coach after that 99 season. And we're going to circle back to basketball here in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you, what was the final deciding factor in stepping away from basketball after 99?
Well, I think there's several factors that played into that. I'd been doing both sports here for 23 years, and I just kind of got to a point that it's like, how long can I do that? Because as you well know, it's very time-consuming. Not just during the seasons, but in the summertime, we spent a lot of time. I was up here 4 days a week, plus then weekends, a lot of camps and stuff. And I think the deciding thing finally was that my assistant coach, Scott Miller, he finally, we had talked about it for quite a while, that he had been here 10 years. That's the longest he's ever been any place for that length of time. And I think, and he'd been dating this gal for 17 years, I don't even know how long. But he said, maybe I should go back. And I said, well, you probably need to go back if you want to have any kids, because he wasn't getting to be a spring chicken anymore either. And when he left, I thought, that's probably a good time for me to be done. He was a tremendous coach, as I alluded to earlier. And, I love the guy to death. And I had taught him in Newcastle, and then he's down here. And Merlin taught with him in Wakefield, and just a great guy. And when he decided that maybe he's going to leave, then I thought, well, maybe it's time for a change of pace for somebody else.
Yeah, and that was really interesting to listen to as you talked about Coach Miller in part 1, because he was my PE teacher. I went to Briarcliff where Mary was coaching, so I saw Coach Miller, after he steps away, then he's kind of in the area a lot at Briarcliff during my time at college. So it was just great to always see him. Like, we'd work out together some nights in the gym there, and then just obviously kind of having that connection. I got to know Coach Schrader really well. So, and it is kind of probably one of those times where maybe just a fresh start in the basketball program at that point.
There. Yeah, there's times when you regret getting out, but then there are other times I said it was time.
Yeah.
And the coaches came in, and we've done a great job here. We've won a couple state championships since that with Coach Wickham and then with Coach Ritter. So I'm pleased. I'm really happy for them and happy for our school.
Yeah. Well, we'll kind of come back to basketball here in a little bit again, but let's go back now into volleyball. So now we're in the 2000s. You're in the midst of this consecutive records wins of 115, and that run started after a loss to Central City in the 2000 state championship game and ran through all the way to the state championship game in the 2004 season. What do you remember about that run?
Well, preceding that, in 99, we won our last 10 matches to win the state championship, and then in 2000, we won our next 28, I believe, and then we lost in the finals. So that streak could have been even a lot longer than that. But, we lost to Central City. They had a great team, in 2000. Obviously, we had our chances to win that match. I think we won the first set like 15-0.
Yeah.
And, and that's crazy. I told Coach Tooley after that first set, I said, that was a mirage. That's not what this is. And then they came back and beat us. And then in the fifth set, we were ahead for a long stretch of time. We just couldn't score, and they beat us. I go back to Coach Miller. He told me, he says, "God, I made a mistake. I was shaking my keys in that third set because I thought it was over. Or in the second set, I thought it was over because we were ahead 13-8,
yeah.
And we ended up getting beat because you had to score off your serve.
There was still rally scoring in that time.
No rally scoring yet,
or still a set scoring, like you had to serve to score. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to score a point. You had to serve, and so. I still blame him to this day for shaking those keys. But, and then it just proceeded from that. Then we go 3 years in a row without a loss.
Yeah.
Just a great group of kids. I've said earlier, it's hard to name the kids that we've had because there's so many. We haven't had many kids that were they carried us. It was always a team effort. But, what was interesting is the 2003 state championship team, that group of girls that were seniors that year never lost a volleyball game from 7th grade through seniors. Never lost one. So obviously they're pretty talented.
Yeah.
And the coaches did a great job with them down in the junior high and the freshmen, and it was amazing. So that we had that great group. I mean, it was we had like Laura Dozal played at Wayne and Taylor Harsh, and you can't even name them all. Just how solid the team.
Yeah.
And then. In 2004, we go undefeated all year long, and then we get beat in the final to Lincoln Lutheran. And Lincoln Lutheran had multiple Division I players. But, it was a great match. It was in the Coliseum. We lose in 5. It was a tough loss, but, we had just a great year. And it was a lot of new kids on that team, so they played great. And we really didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about, hey, we won this such and such. I know it got up to be like we had 87 going into that season. We had 87 wins in a row. And, they knew it, but we didn't dwell on that.
Didn't talk about it all the
time.
time.
We didn't really talk. I mean, didn't even mention it because it was silly to mention that. It didn't matter. This is a whole new team. And, and, of course, who gets a hold of it? The media. And then the media keeps every time, hey, they're up to 94. They're up to 100. And then I think Shickley had 104 wins in a row. And we finally passed them, so we had a new record, and it got up to, what did we say?
115.
115. Yeah. And, we lost it, but, hey, we had a great season. That was quite a run.
Yeah.
But that's stuff you never think would happen. But
yeah, you're kind of in the moment, and even with the kind of the three-peat soccer stuff, it wasn't like we talked about that at practice. It was just, and same thing, you're just kind of making sure you're ready for the next game and ready for those moments to come up. But still, just remarkable runs because if you think about it, in a fifth set, I think the Central City game was like 17-15 in the fifth set back in that. So it's just a couple plays here or there to tip either way, and you maybe continue with that. But also in retrospect, maybe there's a couple of moments in that long streak where a couple of balls go either way, and you maybe lose the streak too. So it's just just in those moments, you just kind of keep playing and living in those moments.
You just have to play match by match, and you can't worry about how many wins in a row you get. And we've always said, the key that I've always told kids over and over and over again, we want to beat everybody that we think or know that we have more talent. Then those that have about equal talent, we want to win all those games too. If somebody's better than us talent-wise, then we want to have some upsets. And that's what we did. And so every game was a big game for us, or a match. Every one was important. So we didn't really talk about, these guys, we're going to beat them, no problem. It was always, hey, we looked at every match as being a big match.
And that's a phrase that I use too. We always tell our girls, like through the club stuff that we do, or even in high school, you win the game that you're in. You win the game that you're in because you don't know what's going to happen in that moment and in the next game. And
exactly.
And it just, sometimes it's hard not to do that, but to not look ahead. But that's kind of when you get burned a little bit.
Yep.
So, well, let's transition. So in those 03 and 04 seasons, you play against one of the greatest volleyball players of all time. I mean, in Nebraska, obviously, she is. Across the world, she's known. I mean, she is one of the greatest volleyball players, and you got to coach against her, Jordan Larson. What do you remember about coaching against her in those couple seasons?
In 2003, we played them at North Bend Tournament. They just got into the North Bend Tournament, hadn't been in it before. And, of course, you knew how good she was. I just remember I worked at UNO camp when she was like a freshman, going to be a freshman. And the coaches are going, oh, yeah, this girl is all world. And, she came out there, and she was good, but I didn't know that she was going to be as good as she was.
Yeah.
And she ended up being obviously a great player. And then we play him as a junior. And one of the things that was such a key for her, she just had a rocket arm. She could just rip it, and her jump serve was amazing, and so my girls have a lot of, they love that challenge of that. We're going to pass this girl.
Pride, yeah.
We have pride. We're gonna. So we kind of adjusted our serve receive because every one was a hard top spin and it always curved to her left. So we shift our whole 3-person serve receive there and leave about a quarter of the court wide open. She can hit that. Well, good luck. Well, she never hit it.
Yeah.
But I think in the 3 matches that we played them, 2 in that 2003 and once in the 2004, we played them in the North Bend tournament again. I think she got maybe 5 ace serves the whole time, which was, we don't want anybody to get an ace serve, but she's just that good.
Yeah.
And I can just remember in the state championship game in 2003, we played great. I mean, I think it was 15-3, 15-5, or something like that.
Yeah.
And we blocked incredibly. I think we had like 17 stuff blocks that game. And, we just keyed on her. She's back row. She's going to hit back row. No matter what, if she's front row, we're going to get a double up on her all the time. And then we beat them at North Bend again the next year. So we played them 3 times. And what's kind of interesting, John, is so I go down to Nebraska Clinic every year in the spring. And she's down there playing. And I'm sitting there kind of by myself. Nothing was happening right then. Here she comes. She comes down and sits down right beside me. And I didn't even know if she knew who I was, but she did. She comes, Coach, I want to tell you, we just couldn't never beat you guys. I said, well, Jordan, think about this. You're the best player on the court, no doubt. We had a lot of really good players, but you're the best player.
Yeah.
We just had a better team.
Yeah.
We had a better overall 6 that we could put on the floor than you did. And I'm not taking anything away from her teammates, but we were just better overall. I said, you were the best player. That's the way it was. But, and what a great kid. Yeah. I've talked to her since. I just saw her this past Christmas at a church service that my family all went to in Omaha, and there she was.
Really?
And so after, and I waved at her, and she waved at me, and then I went over and talked to her for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, and she's in the midst of getting ready for the pro season.
Stuff, yeah.
And just a great kid.
Yeah.
She's a really nice lady.
Isn't that kind of neat, though? Like, how often do you get a coach against, and again, you don't really realize it in the moment, but as you follow her career, now she's one of the most, probably the most decorated volleyball player of all time in the country, right? I mean, how cool is that? But you have a relationship with her, and that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool that, first of all, you think, when she came up and sat by me, I thought, does she even know who I am? She knew who I was because we played them multiple times.
Yeah.
But she was willing to just come up, and she's just as common as anybody. She doesn't have airs about her. She is just a really good person.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, let's keep moving on here. So you lose in the 04 state final, but you come back in 05 and 06 with some really good seasons. You get back, 2 more state championships there. In 07, you miss out on the state tournament in 07, but you come back again in 08 and 09 with another 2 titles in a row. So kind of a rarity to miss it in 07, but you kind of bookend those with some really good seasons. But that had to feel good to kind of continue to keep going in a forward path with the program.
You just, every year, you don't know what the situation is going to be. I mean, yes, we had good players. And that's the thing about the volleyball season, probably any sport. Kids have that success, and you get that tradition built, and everybody wants to be a part of it. Everybody, when they're 5th and 6th graders, they see you win a state championship. They want to do that.
Yep.
And that's what leads us to that. And I look at those teams. In 05, we got beat by Lincoln Lutheran in the state championship in 04 to stop the streak. And then we play them again the next year, and they have about 3 or 4 starters back. A couple of them went Division I, and we had basically a new team. I didn't think there was any way they were going to win that game. And we split with them during the year. We had some tough losses against Hastings St. Cecilia was really good. Lincoln Lutheran lost to them once. Elkhorn was state champs, I think, in B that year. So we had a really nice team. But we go to Pershing and we beat them. And it's kind of funny. I reminisce Jamie Tooley, Janet's daughter, Jen Haney, they're two of our primary passers. And leading of the week before we go to the state tournament, they couldn't pass anything. They were horrible. It was like, I mean, it just got in their heads. And finally, Janet and I just both said, we're not saying another word. We told them, we're not saying another word, just pass the dang thing. Mm-hmm. And they go down there, and in the state championship match, they pass lights out. You know, they make a 3-pass, and 3 passes perfect to the setter, and they did one after another, and we end up winning in 4. You know, so, I mean, that's the kind of kids that we had. They just stopped, raised to the next level. Yeah. And then in 2006, we had another great year, and one kind of thing was kind of neat. We get into the finals. That was our 14th straight year in the finals, which is
unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, at one time, I was just hoping as I coach, I could get to the state tournament.
Yeah.
Now we're playing it 14th straight time.
Yeah.
It's, which is a state record, still a state record.
And that's really just hard to contemplate that not only you make it to state, because of the expectation, everybody wants to make it a state. And I think people like in that run, and I think the whole Scotus community, and I think we're all guilty of it in that moment. If you think back, it's like, well, we just expect to be there every year, right? And you guys are playing in 14 state championship games in a row. But in those moments, again, you probably don't really appreciate what's happening, right?
Yeah, you don't. You look back now and said, how did that happen?
Yeah.
You just every year you're in the moment of, hey, we got to try and play the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know John Petersen.
Yeah.
He's a Scotus booster, through and through alum. He lives in Lincoln. But he always send out a blurb after state tournament. And one of the things that I didn't recognize, he just said, from 93 to 2006, we had an overall record of 385 wins and 16 losses, 96 win percentage. How does that happen?
Yeah. And let's think about, and how many of those losses were either in the state semifinal or in the state championship game? You rarely had regular season losses, right?
Not very many.
Those losses were in the state semis or the state finals.
Yeah. So, yeah. And Coach Thule and I, after every one of those state championships, and I'd drive the bus back. And she had sit up there by me, and we'd talk about the game some. And then it was like, right away, it was like, what are we going to do next year?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this again? Yeah. Can we ever do this again? Mm-hmm. And this is who we have coming back, and this is who we lose. And so, and we told her that at some point in time, we said, are we really enjoying this as much as we should, or just worrying about the next season? And they said, well, maybe we won't really appreciate it as much till we retire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of true.
Yeah, I was guilty of that too with the soccer team.
Sure.
Like I drove the bus. You get on the bus, you're celebrating a state championship, you get on the bus, I'm driving, assistants behind us, and we're already thinking about next year's lineup. Yeah. It's just you appreciate it, but then your mind's always spinning, right? Your mind's always spinning. Well, if 96% winning percentage over that time frame is just, again, unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even, I had never calculated it, and I didn't even know it till he sent it out, and it's like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That we can maintain that excellence. It's not like it's not maybe an NBA team or NFL team that's got the same people every year. This is you talk about over that many years, 14 years of a lot of new kids.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on this with Taylor a little bit. Our kids that came through the volleyball program, that come through school, start in our elementary schools. It's not like you're going out of town and picking these kids in and moving them in here, right? It's just they're the kids that are from Columbus and leading through it.
And they're seeing what's happened, and they want to be a part of that, which is so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned to me, let's talk about that 09 group. You mentioned to me that was one of your most memorable seasons. You lose 3 times at GICC in the regular season, conference and district finals, but each time was a little bit closer. And when you told me that, I was thinking back to, and just I'm going to pick on, or going to kind of focus a little bit here on the 97 group too with Christy and Kim. It was very similar. They lose. GICC had this incredible team. Christy and their group really, the class before was amazing. Christy and Kim played a little bit, and Holly played, but there weren't a lot of players that played that year in 97, and GICC has this great team. But it was one of those things, like they took it to you early, and then you beat them in that memorable district final. So when you mentioned that to me, that was a memorable year, it was very similar kind of paths of the 97 team. But Talk about that '09 group and in that state final match with GICC at the Coliseum.
I'll allude back just a little bit. We played them 3 times before we get to the state tournament. The first time we played them at Grand Island Central Catholic, and they thumped us good. Well, it was kind of interesting. After the game was over, we're standing in the hall, kind of waiting for the kids to get dressed and stuff. And here comes, his name is Tom, and I can't remember his last name right now. He was an announcer for Grand Island CC. He comes up to me. I go, oh, boy. He says, I just want you to know, John, that won't be like that later because I know how you guys are going to get better and better and better. I just thought to myself, this guy, I think he's been drinking or something. I just didn't think. Yeah. I mean, and it was kind of prophetic. And then we play him in the conference championship game, and we lose, and it's a lot closer. I mean, then you just played 2 out of 3 to 25. And what was interesting was Mike Chilaha, a good friend of mine, he was at the game. He and his wife, Kelly, were at the game. And he said, we were walking out. He told me this afterwards. He said, we were walking out with some Grand Island people. And he said, oh, no, here they come again. Because we're a lot closer
after the conference final game.
After the conference final game. Well, then we play them in the district, and the good thing was back then it was we had a wild card start out because of our record and because of who we had played. Win or lose, we're going to go to the state tournament, but we still had to play them. You know, first when we looked at it, at the beginning of the season. Oh, my God, how did we get put in the same district with Grand Island Central Catholic?
Yeah. Again, another parallel to like the 97 team, too.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But in 97,
no wild card.
No wild card. Yeah. Loser goes home. Yeah. Grand Island went home. Yeah. And you know what, John? The best part about that was we didn't have to play him again.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't have to play him in the state tournament. Yep. Well, anyway, so we go down there and we play. It goes in 5, and it went 5. I mean, nobody's been beating them at all. They couldn't. Nobody could take a set off of them. And we got 2 of them. That gave our kids a lot of incentive. So then you go to the state tournament, and we had a tough road to haul. I mean, there's some really good teams in there. So we play them in the finals, and it's a Coliseum. It's packed. Just great crowd.
That. We drove the girls down.
It was so noisy, and it was just nuts. And I can just remember banner. Our parents hung a banner up on that balcony in the Coliseum that said GICC. Grand Island Championship canceled. I thought, oh my God, I don't know. They don't need any incentive. Well, and then the game went, back and forth. We win 1, they win 1, we win 1. Then they kind of smoked us in the 4th set. They could beat us like 25-15, and I just didn't know if we could recover. Goes in the 5th set. They come out and they score 4 right now. Going to 15. Score 4 right now. I call timeout, and we just talked about, hey, we got to settle, and we go out there. They come out and they miss the serve. And then we come out and score 5 in a row. Now it's a dogfight. Yeah. It's back and forth, back and forth. They end up losing, or they actually missed 3 serves. We didn't lose 1. And then Monica Boating had a huge kill right at the end. We win. I mean, I've never seen a group of kids so excited because after you've lost 3 times, how are you going to beat them? And they found a way.
I remember when the team rushed the court. I mean, the student section was going crazy. But obviously those girls are just kind of like, they're crying tears of joy, right?
Oh, it was, I can just remember like it was yesterday. I mean, what a great feeling for not just our team, our coaches, but our fans. The student body was incredible. I mean, we were on the side where the Grand Island people were sitting, and it was so loud. Yeah. Between one of the games, I said, let's go out in the hallway, just get away from that noise so we could talk. You can hardly talk. And it was, those hallways back in the Coliseum were really narrow. Yeah. So that wasn't a great thing. And so we then did have our players that we weren't talking to stand behind there to kind of keep
muffle the noise a little bit.
And I remember the AD from Grand Island, he was always there peering over into our huddle and stuff. I said, come on, get out of here. I didn't say anything, but what a great win that was. That was one of the sweetest victories against a really, really good team that we've had. And we had I'm not taking away from any of the state championships, but you said the parallel of the 97 when Jenny Kropp was a great player and went to Nebraska and started 4 years. I mean, those kind of wins you really remember. And, you have some of those losses that are just as heartbreaking, but that was a great win.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you can remember the wins, too, because it's as a coach, it's so easy to remember the losses. But when those really good wins stick out, those are the great memories.
Yeah, we got beat in the state final 7 times. You forget that. I mean, we won 15, but we lost 7. And I can remember some of them I thought, we were just right there. Yeah. We could have won more. couple more, but but
and those memories are so clear because I remember even my first year back coaching the boys soccer team, we lose in the state semis, and we're up 2-0 against Pius, and they score on two corner kick goals, bang bang. But to this day, it's one of those moments I can see those moments happen. So you have those images that are just ingrained in your mind.
Yeah, you do.
Well, so you mentioned, so you get number 15 in 2011 versus Kearney Catholic, and that goes to 5 as well. So that's 15th for the program, and then you finish. Then you get a runner-up in 2012, and then your final season is in 2013. So you were a head coach at Scotus for 37 years, 3 at Newcastle, 40 total. What was, you kind of, because probably in the back of your mind at some point over the years, you're probably, okay, when's the right time? What was, and you decided to step away in 13. What kind of talked me through that?
Well, John, that was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but during the 13th season, I was even, when you start thinking about it, it might be time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept thinking about it. Coach Tooley and I talked a little bit about it, but, ultimately it was up to me, obviously. And my family, my daughters, and my wife, we talked about it. And I thought, 40 is a nice round number. Maybe that is the right time. And, do you ever regret it? I probably could have went a few more years. But on the other hand, it just seemed the right time. There wasn't one thing that just said, I gotta quit this. This is too much.
You just kind of know.
Yeah, I just kind of knew. And it was a hard decision. Thought about it all winter long. Finally, the superintendent, Wayne Morfeld, he had to know that. He said, hey, John, you got to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't pressuring me one way or the other.
Yeah.
He says, I understand if you stay. I understand if you want to retire from it, but I need to know because we have to get another coach lined up.
Yeah.
And finally, I just made that decision. And, one of the hardest things, we had a meeting with all the volleyball players up in Coach Tooley's office, and there were a few tears, and I think I had tears too.
Sure.
It's just, you just feel like you're letting them down. But on the other hand, it's a new start. And but so it was tough, and you know that too from your coaching. It's anytime you stop doing something that you really love.
Yeah.
It was time.
I remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I remember when I was going through that, I texted you and asked you, I said, what, you kind of helped me kind of make my decision too. It's just you kind of know, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of know.
It's just like right now, everybody was shocked when Coach Cook retired.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's like, huh, why did he do that? Well, I think he reached a point too.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably enough. I can't speak for him, but, he's middle 60s or 67. I don't know what his age was. I was 63, but like I said, I was coaching volleyball for all but 2 of those years because I was in Newcastle the first year. I didn't coach it, and in Little Rock I didn't coach it. So, I'd been doing it forever, and I mean, obviously I loved it.
Yeah.
But it just, now it's been how many years since I've been doing it, so it goes pretty fast.
We'll just back up just real quick here, and you mentioned earlier that you did both of them for 23 years together. And that's a lot of time. Coaches appreciate it, and I think, the students reflecting back on it probably obviously appreciate it. I know my wife appreciates it, of course, but 23 years of doing that, and that's back then, and times are different now. It's like, it's a grind, right? It's a grind. It just takes a lot of time. And you have your wife and you have your kids, and, you kind of become, you have these little different, your family's your family, but you kind of have these other different pockets of family, right? That take a lot of your time. So,
no doubt. I taught, and I always tried to be the best teacher I could be, the best math teacher I could be. I tried to, whether or not it was, but I spent a lot of time on it, my preparation stuff. But, in the summertime, I painted with Vern Younger, Pat Brockhouse, Merlin Lam, did that for 30-some years. But my typical day would be, we were on the job painting at 7. I'd go to about 3 or 3:30 because I had open gyms Monday through Thursday, twice for basketball, twice for volleyball. And, get home at 6, 6:30 and then repeat it. And then, a lot of weekends you were doing your volleyball camp, or basketball camp. It was, I don't regret any of it. It was fun in a lot of ways, but it was a grind.
Yeah.
And as I got older, it was more of a grind.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit harder, but I wouldn't trade those years for anything.
Sure, absolutely. Well, talk about your staff. Talk about your staff and the impact, because your staff was phenomenal. All the way from their seventh, your junior high coaches, all the way through your high school, your freshman, JV, and then you guys were together for a long time. So just kind of touch on them a little bit.
What was so neat about them, like Jane Duzel-Mestfeld, she had 7th grade for years and years. Joan Lom helped her for a long time. Gary Lexinger had 8th grade, and he had a couple different. Tracy Wessel had helped him. And then for a long time, Julie Blaser was the freshman coach and helped with the varsity some. And then Janet Tully was my sister. So those people were with me for, I would say, almost 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them just a few years longer than others, but they were incredible. I mean, now we have our camp. I go to Nebraska camp. I go to our camp. They say, oh, God, what are we going to change now? What do we got to change now? And usually they're minor things.
Yeah.
They weren't anything big.
Yeah.
But they were willing to make whatever might be an adjustment in your passing or setting or your serving or just little things.
Yeah.
But they were so good. They were really good with the kids. So they got a great foundation. When you have a staff like that for 25 years, not many, I said nobody in the State's got as good a staff as I have.
Yeah.
I mean, they were loyal. They were true blue. They were willing to work hard. We go to a tournament on Saturdays, and there get to be, we had about 5 tournaments during the year, during the fall. But there would be Jane keeping the book. There would be Gary off somewhere scouting.
Yeah.
There'd be Julie and Janet sitting on the bench with me, and then the game was over. We'd go back to somebody's house and have pizza.
Yeah.
We just had a blast.
They were friends too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were great friends. They're great to be around, and I can never thank them enough for what they did, and they were good at what they did, and they just loved it. I mean, it was really hard. That's one of the reasons it was really hard about quitting too.
Yeah.
Not just for the team, the girls, but also because of those people.
Those relationships every day.
Yeah.
You don't stay retired too long because you go into another venture here, coaching up at Wayne State. And so let's touch on that just for a little bit here. Talk about your Wayne State experience.
Well, first of all, Scott Kneifel was the Wayne State coach. I taught him. I didn't teach him. He was from Newcastle. My wife and I were good friends with his parents when we were up there. He's about the same age as my daughters. But he would come down when he got into volleyball, and he came to our camp a few times and helped and messed around. And then he ended up coaching a variety of different high schools. And then he got an assistant job at Wayne State, and then he took over the head job. And he was driving back from watching some high school players. He calls me up and says, "Hey, John, I got a great idea. Why don't you come up here and help?" I said, "Scott, I just retired. I did 40 years. I just retired." "Oh, you'd love it. You got to come up here." So he talked me to come up and visit with him. Well, so I did. And I was still teaching, so I didn't get up there a lot the first 2 years. Then when I retired from teaching, I went up there more. And I wasn't there every day. It was more of a volunteer job. I mean, he gave me some money, especially for travel and stuff. But it was a blast. I mean, I did it for 6 years. And then COVID hit. They didn't have a season. I was tired of driving. I said, "Scott, that's probably enough." And I still go up there. And I even went up there this year a couple of times to watch them practice. A couple of those girls are still there. They were there 6-year players.
As coaches?
No, well, the coaches are there.
Oh, they were players back then.
They were players because they were
Another
redshirted and COVID.
And COVID year.
And both of them were first-team All-American middles. They're just great kids. Yeah. And, so I enjoyed it, the heck out of it. I didn't go to I went to all the home games. I went to Sioux Falls most of the time, those games. But then you go up to Minot, North Dakota.
A little bit more travel in that conference.
Oh, my God, Duluth, Minnesota. And I was up there like 3 times. But, I just didn't go to all those games.
Sure.
And when I was teaching, I couldn't do all that. We went to Tampa one year for the Final 8, so we got to be a part of that. That was great. So I enjoyed it. The kids were great. I'd go up there after I kind of wasn't going up there. They'd come up there and give me a big hug. "Oh, Coach, how are you? I wish you were back."
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's a little different, but it's just like kind of a different.
Yeah.
It's a different experience because you're coaching at a different level, and the kids are older. So you kind of have a little bit different relationship with those kids that are in college than you do with the high school kids.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would still be doing it if it was like driving to Schuyler.
Sure.
But I got to that. I don't need to drive.
And that's not an easy drive.
And that's not an easy drive. It's an hour, 20 minutes, hour 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, on 2-lane road.
One way, on 2 lanes. Yeah.
But that does say a lot. That does say a lot about the level of volleyball in the state. I mean, obviously the high school level is great to watch. Like, we watch every state championship Saturday in our house. We watch them. Even if our kids aren't playing, we still watch. But, you got the junior college levels that are really good, the NAIA levels, the Division IIIs, Division IIs. All the volleyball at every level is so good. Isn't that just crazy for a state like this?
It really is. I want to say something just about our girls, too. We've only had 2 Division I players. Jody Chalaha went to Creighton back in the early 90s, and then Carmen Burbeck went to Northwestern in the Big Ten. Both of them were 4-year starters. But we've had so many girls play, it's like Division II, NAIA, junior college, and it's great volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really good volleyball.
And have great careers at all the different levels that they played.
Absolutely, and you just look at the level of play. UNK and Wayne State are top-notch Division II player teams. Creighton and Nebraska are great Division I teams. It is great volleyball, and I give a lot of credit to Coach Pettit and Coach Cook for what they accomplished. They really got volleyball going here in the state. And now Coach Booth at Creighton has done a unbelievable job as well.
Well, even just this last season, right? Because Concordia and Seward had an amazing season this year. Right?
Yes.
And Coach Mary Young at Central, they're always good.
They are. And, again, they're all great. What I think is so neat is they're all really good people.
Mm-hmm.
And they treat kids right, and they work really hard, and they're obviously very knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, let's transition back into basketball here a little bit. So you retire after the '99 season, and you're away for 1 year, and then you come back as a freshman coach. And your roles over these many years have, you've continued to be an assistant today. But you're part of a state championship, or you start part of a runner-up team in '02 that loses on like a last-second play because Katie, my sister-in-law, was on that group. And then you're part of a staff in 2004 with Coach Wickham. You guys won a state title there. And then with 2018 with Coach Ritter and Coach Coulter. But it's and you touched on this earlier, but that's got to make you feel good. The basketball program continues to be good. We've had some really, really good years. We're having a really good year this year. So kind of touch on that as you've continued in your role as a basketball coach.
Well, I guess some coaches just don't know when to just get the heck out of it. And I was out that 1 year, and I thought I can help. I was selfish in a way that I thought I could get back into it. It also helps the volleyball team because I think it's good for kids to be multiple sport athletes, and most of our kids are 2 or 3 sport athletes, which makes a big difference, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we want them to be competitive, and so I thought that I can help in this way, and I missed it. So Coach Wickham let me be the freshman coach, and then we won a state title with that group of girls that I think I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but that group of girls didn't lose a game in volleyball from 7th grade through senior year, and they're really good basketball players as well. So I got to be a part of that. That was pretty neat. And then I just kept doing it. And then I got out for a couple years after when Coach Ritter took over. I was the freshman coach for a while, and then I got out. And Joe Held helped me for a couple years. It was kind of fun with the freshmen. Mm-hmm. We had a great time. Then I thought, maybe this is enough. And, then about in 16 or 17, Coach Ritter says, hey, you need to come back and help. Come on. I mean, I was like, why would I do that again? But he talked me into it, and I had a great time.
Yeah. With
Coach Calder and Coach Ritter. They let me do a lot of things. I didn't have any particular thing that I had to do. I helped do mostly with the posts now, but and they listened to me, and whether as any coach, you want to listen to your assistants. Mm-hmm. He may agree, may disagree.
Sure.
And that's fine. That should be your role. Like Coach Tooley would do, and Coach Miller for me, they did the same thing.
Yep.
And I'd say, yeah, I like that's a great idea, or I said, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what you do as a head coach.
Yep.
So they let me do that, and that's great. And 2018, I was really happy for Coach Ritter and Coach Calder because they both did a great job. And it's funny we beat Wahoo Newman in the final. I can still remember the shot here. They beat us regular season game, hit a big 3, and then Bailey Lair hits a big 3 in there to go and force it into overtime, and we end up winning. So I mean, it's great, and we play tomorrow night for the district championship to go to state. Mm-hmm. It'll be a tough game, but it's great that we got in that position because we got a nice team again. We're little, but we got a nice team, and hopefully we can play a great game.
Yeah, and it's and I mentioned that too. The current team's having a really good year, and it has been fun to watch. and I know, obviously married to Christy and close friends with Kim, and now Mallory and Emma and Allie are part of that. So it's fun to see you kind of, I know it's kind of like a deja vu for Kim and Christy to look across the court and see you coaching the girls, and then Jen, Quinn with Jenny too. But it's fun to, we'll kind of divert here, but it's kind of funny when, if there's a mistake made, the girls kind of get, the look. That's what Christy says. The look. Emma got the look. So and we kind of have our little seating arrangement up there with Kim and Christy and I and Mike. But it's just it's fun to really watch you interact. And now you're coaching second generation players. Isn't that kind of hits you a little bit?
So are you saying that my smile isn't always there?
No, your smile's there, but it's like you kind of get that little quick look. And we were talking to Emma about it the other night after the Battle Creek game. Because I was like, when Emma got home, we were sitting in the kitchen, we're all just chatting there, and we were talking about, she made a couple of bad passes or whatever, and you kind of gave her that look, that little stare thing. But Emma's like, I know, I could feel him staring at me, and all I said, I know, when she came out of the time, I know.
I know, it is kind of cool that way. I mean, the first one was Amanda Chalao, her mother Kelly played for me in the early 80s,
yeah, and
then Amanda played in the 2000s, and that was kind of one of the first ones, I think, that coached the Mother
girls.
And the Wickham girls, and
there's probably a few that we're missing, but yeah, it's just kind of cool to see.
It is. It's really neat. And now, not just Emma, but now Allie's a freshman, and it's kind of neat. I mean, it does remind yourself how old you really are. But the thing that's neat about it keeps me a little bit younger, I guess.
Well, it just keeps you involved with different things.
Sure.
Obviously with so many of the girls living in town, but you get an opportunity to connect with a lot of your former players on a regular basis, like at the alumni volleyball tournament, and now with alumni basketball, we do an alumni girls basketball game. And it's so interesting because the girls that are playing in that game do kind of look around to see if you're in there. It's just kind of interesting. It's interesting to see, but all these girls and now moms, my wife included, continue to look up to you. They hold you in such a high regard. But, you see some of your former players now that maybe are coaches at different levels. So you kind of have a little mini coaching tree and seeing all these different, girls do their different things. But do you ever just kind of reflect on some of those, I guess your impact on so many people?
Yeah, you hope that you would give them the kind of traits that you would like to see people have. And I've been very fortunate, almost all of them I've had in class, obviously, except the younger kids now. Mm-hmm. But I've said this many times. I mean, I talk about in the 1996 team was honored a couple years back as a 25-year team at the NSAA. Mm-hmm. And in terms of, because of they had a great season, probably maybe the most talented team that we had. They had great size, great athleticism, went undefeated, so they got honored. And then we invite them all back to come and you go up on the stage. You've been there. And you're up on the stage, and like 16 out of the 18 girls, that includes some managers, were there. One was a doctor in Canada, so she couldn't make it. Another one would work down in Springfield, Missouri, and she couldn't make it but they were all there. But I looked at, when I went up and talked, it's just how many of them were teachers, coaches, doctors. There's about 4 doctors. One was a psychologist. I said, I could use her. One was a baby doctor. I said, I don't need her.
Yeah.
But, and nurses and in medical profession or in investment profession, and just every one of them was so successful. Mm-hmm. And I've always said, if you want to, most of the time, if you're a good athlete, you're also a good student because you have that work ethic. And that's what I've been blessed with. I had so many girls like that. We talked about before about identifying certain girls. It's so hard because there were so many. We never had all those just great athletes, but we had great teams because we had so many kids that were so good and worked so hard and loved to play.
And served a role.
Yes, and they did.
Yeah. And that's kind of the fun thing about the alumni events that we do, like with alumni soccer and all these different alumni things where your former players just kind of come up to you now as adults and start talking about and start reminiscing, because when you're coaching them sometimes, you have to be hard on them. You got to be hard on them, but they also got to know that you love them. Right?
Exactly.
And so when those kids come up to you at like alumni soccer, as the night goes on, stories get told, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Coach, do you remember this? Do you remember that?" And you're like, "No, I don't remember it." But like in those moments, those kids have different memories that they bring out that just kind of stick with them, and then they're good memories. So like, it's good to hear those stories because then you're like, okay, maybe you did make an impact on some kids.
Well, that's what you would hope.
Yeah.
And you said something just a second ago. I've always said that you can be tough on kids as long as they know that you love them.
Mm-hmm.
If they know that you love them, then they can take it.
Yep.
You can't be a jerk and all that kind of stuff, but you can be tough. They said, that's not a good pass, Emma. I can say that to her. This is what you need to do, and they'll accept that.
Yeah.
Now, if you yell and scream at them, and that doesn't usually get much done.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point in time you say, I can't take this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good enough.
Yeah.
But you hope you make a positive impact that how you treat them, that's going to be how they treat people too.
Sure.
So you want to do the right thing by them. And I certainly try to. I don't say that I always did.
Mm-hmm.
I probably have said things I wish I had never said or have done. I just remember when you were getting ready to go to state, this was a sad story for me, but we were getting ready to go to state in volleyball, and we had a really good team, and we did end up winning it. But I just got so frustrated. It was like the day or two before, and a ball was sitting on the floor, and I never, ever kicked a ball before. But I just went and I gave that thing a boot, and we were doing a 6-on-6 thing, and it went over the net, all the way over the end line. You've been proud as a soccer coach.
Yeah.
And it landed right in a ball rack. Right in a ball rack. Coach Tooley's there with the JV, and they all turned around. They just couldn't hardly help but laugh.
Yeah.
The girls on my side, they didn't even, oh, my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I, like, how dumb is that? And, of course, what happens? That night, we go to Valentino's and for pizza with the parents and stuff, and who has to say something? Coach Tooley's got to say, well, we saw something pretty spectacular today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but, I mean, and now we laugh about it. The kids will laugh about it and stuff. But, I can just remember Megan Pyle's group. This last day before we go to the state tournament, they come out when they got this bucket, and they call it the barf bucket, and they had written on barf. And then all the supposed sayings that I said.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one of them was, because I remember during the year, I had one time I said, if I watch this any longer, I'm going to get sick. I can't watch this. This is making me sick. So they call it the barf bucket.
Barf bucket.
So they thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I laughed by that time, you too. But, so, you have to have those light moments, too.
Yeah.
And those are kind of things that you remember. How come I can remember that?
Yeah.
I can't remember my name sometimes. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. But that is so funny because, you kind of have those moments. I have a couple of those moments that get brought up every fall.
Yeah.
I get up every August on Saturday night, too. You're like, not our greatest moments. But again, those kids know that you care about them. They know you love them. So, they understand in the moment, you're getting hard on them, but you care about them off the court, too.
Absolutely.
So you retire now, and after the 15-16 school year, retire from the math department. And you'd been at Scotus for 39 years teaching, total of 44 years. Was it difficult to step away from teaching or not?
Yeah, it was to its point. I was 65, going to be 66. So, I was soon going to get, when you teach at Scotus, you don't make the most money of anybody around. But, I get Social Security at that time. I get my last paycheck from Scotus in August, and I get a Social Security check in October. And... that probably played a little part of it. And my wife had just retired the spring before. And, I loved my last year of teaching. I had a lot of fun. I mean, I was teaching geometry and 7th grade math. And those 7th graders, they just killed me. I mean, they walk in, Mr. Petersen, hello, it's like.
They're so innocent, right? They're
innocent.
Like they're innocent at the school.
And it's most of the time it was like, I'd be teaching up there and then they want to say, they all got their hands up. I said, wait, let me finish here.
Yeah.
Then I'll take questions.
Yeah.
But they were, I loved it. It was so much fun, but I just thought, I don't want to die in this classroom.
Sure.
I need to do some other stuff.
Yeah.
I need to get out and travel and not be tied down so much to this. But, I loved it. I mean, what a great place to teach.
Yeah. And so in your retirement, I know what keeps you busy, but I know you're on the golf course. Did you golf this morning?
I did not golf. I golfed the last 2 mornings.
Okay.
But I thought with this, I want to get a couple things
I was wondering
done.
if you were going to get 9 in before you came.
Well, I thought about it, and then I didn't.
Yeah. But talk about your golf group. I mean, just kind of share that. Because it's former teachers and obviously former coaches.
Yeah. Well, Craig Post, teacher and coach at Columbus High. Tom Lange, teacher and coach at Lakeview. Alan Vancura, teacher and coach at Hastings St. Cecilia. You know, we banged heads a lot of times, had some great games. You know, and they moved here because their son and family lives here as a physical therapist, I think, in town.
Yep.
And we just have a blast. Danny Steiner played with us a lot. I mean, so I enjoy it. We play, you know, in the summer I play 5 days a week. Vancouver, he plays 7 times a week.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a great group. We have a lot of laughs. We just enjoy it. We're all competitive, but, you know, we root for each other. And I'm not saying I'm a great golfer, but I just love doing it.
Well, you're not too bad. You've had how many hole-in-ones?
6.
6.
That's
It's a couple in one summer, right? Like after you
well.
had
One
your knee
summer
done,
I had. I can't remember which one. One of them, I got 3 of them in one summer.
Yeah. I think you were coming in for your knee at that time, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
I know my brother. He golfs he lives down in Arizona now. Every time I get a hole in one, I take a picture with it, and he gets so mad because he's a better golfer than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not very good. I guess I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just a lot of fun.
When was your last hole-in-one?
I didn't get one last year, so
2 seasons ago?
yeah, 2 seasons ago.
Really? Wow. At Quail or where?
The last one was actually where did I get that one? Oh, in Lee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a funny story. We played at Humphrey. I had never played at Humphrey. A group of us, not that group, it was a different group, went to Humphrey to play 18.
Mm-hmm.
Rich Blonsky, good friend, he said, "Oh, let's go to Lee and play another 9." It's kind of like
On the same day?
Same day. I said, because it's kind of on the
Those
way
are 2
home.
nice courses, though.
Oh, yeah, nice
Yeah.
courses, 9-hole courses. And we had played 18 at Humphrey, so go there. And I think it's hole 3 or 4. It's a par 3, kind of downhill. I'll be danged. Got one there. So
Wow.
It was crazy. You couldn't see it go in because it's kind of downhill. There's a little
There's
mound
some
in
hills
front
in
of it.
there, yeah.
So we get down there, and Craig Post has seen like 4 or 5 of the
Your hole-in-ones?
Of the hole-in-ones. That's pretty crazy
Yeah.
too.
Coach Post is a good guy.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about Marilyn for a second. Obviously, being a coach's wife isn't easy, right? Long nights, long seasons. Kind of she rides the wave of the ups and downs. But you know, Marilyn's awesome. You know, touch on her just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she stuck with me for 50-some plus years, and you know, she doesn't go to a lot of the games now. I think she's got a little arthritis in her back and stuff, and it kind of bothers her. But you know, and she blames it on sitting in bleachers. So, and that might be somewhat true.
Yeah.
But you know, she's been with me the whole time, and it's been great. You know, as a coach too, it's sometimes you miss out a few of your kids' activities. She did a great job at that, and I just have to love her for what she's had to put up with sometimes. And yeah, there are times when you come home. I can remember one game we played in Holdridge years ago. Scott Miller was my assistant in basketball, and you know, some of those officials. So it was the end of the 3rd quarter. Set the ball down. We didn't get out quick enough. They got it scored. Well, they ended up beating us. And my daughter was going to Kearney. She came to the game because Holdridge isn't a long way from Kearney. So she evidently, a little bit later, I hear that, Amy called and said, "Hey, when Dad gets home, if you're not asleep, act like you're asleep," because we got pretty grouchy after that. He was not a very happy person.
Happy guy.
So, but I mean, you know, she lives for those ups and downs too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, I'm just so fortunate to have a wife that encouraged me to do that.
Yeah.
And even today, I mean, she says, "What would you do if you weren't helping with basketball?" Well, I can't play golf all day long, you know. But so I've enjoyed that, and she's good with it.
Yeah.
And my daughters, you know, I coached both of them. That was pretty cool. Coached Amy volleyball and basketball. Started her last year as a setter, and it was about the 7th or 8th player in basketball. Jessie was a little different story, a little bigger, and she started in basketball for 3 years, played a lot as a freshman, and then didn't start till her senior year in volleyball. But, so I was able to coach to them. Sometimes it was a good thing, probably, sometimes not. But, but I was so fortunate I have a family that supported me like that.
Where are Amy and Jesse now?
They're both in Omaha. They both, Amy has 2 girls that are in 8th grade and freshmen. The 8th grader is playing some volleyball. The freshman is playing strictly softball now at Gretna High.
Oh, okay.
And
they have a good team.
They have a good team. They're state champs this year. She was on the top JV team. She's got a lot of work to do to break that kind of a lineup, but she loves it there. She really does. The other girl is at a middle school in Millard, but they're moving. In fact, they're moving tomorrow into a new home. They build in Gretna so they can.
Oh, really?
So
they go to Gretna East then, or Gretna High?
Gretna High.
Gretna High still.
And then my other daughter's got 3 boys, and 2 of them have graduated from Millard West. One's a senior, graduated from UNL this year. The other one's a freshman at UNL. Last year, he played football at Millard West. He was outside linebacker, and he, of course, Grandpa thinks he was a good player. And he was on the state championship baseball team. And then they got another one that's 7th grader. So we spent a lot of time going down there and watching games over the past 4 or 5 years.
But that's kind of a nice transition, too. Now you can kind of just be grandpa, right?
Yeah, well, just like this last Sunday. Watched the 8th grade girl play 3 club volleyball games, and then left and went over to that was in Fremont. And then they went to UBT and watched grandson play 2 basketball games. So you try and get to as much as you can. You can't make it all. But.
Yeah. Do you ever just kind of give them a couple points, or do they ever ask you for some things?
Oh yeah, I do. I do. In fact, my daughters with the boys, they're coming for a wedding here this weekend, and I didn't talk to her, but my wife talked to Jessie, and she said, Ben wants to know, because they're going to stay overnight, if we can go up to school and work on his shot.
Oh.
And I've done that multiple times this summer.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to just review a few things. I said, yeah, we'll figure out a time.
That's pretty cool bond.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and you're a grandpa.
Yeah,
and
I'm
so
grandpa.
It's like you just kind of, it's not your, it's the, it's probably, I'll get there someday, but it's a little bit different probably doing it with your grandkids than it is with your kids.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad. It makes me feel good that he'd even want to do that.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is neat.
Well, I mean, you have such a long history. I mean, we're going to kind of close to wrapping it up here a little bit, but you have such a long history, and I asked you to give me a list of some girls. I mean, the list is endless. So, and just a quick word association. And we're going to inevitably leave some of these amazing people out of here, but we'll just pick a couple off of here. Like Lana Torzon. Let's go from the 80s. So Lana Torzon.
Lana was probably the first girl that really got much recognition statewide. She was on she made the coach's all-star game in the summer. She made that in basketball. Started 3 years in basketball and a couple years in left-hander. Just a nice player. Mm-hmm. Just a good player. And we started out in basketball. The year I came, hadn't won a game, and then finally when she kind of got there, we got a little bit better. And she's a nice player and worked hard.
Yeah. Chris Orr. I don't think too many people know about her.
Chris Orr transferred in from Cherokee, Iowa. Her dad got a job at the PAC I think he's a personnel guy in Schuyler. And so it's kind of a funny story. The principal then calls me up and says, hey, John, we got this girl that's averaged 45 points a game in Iowa last year, and she's 6'3" and just a great player, and she's coming to visit because they want her to come to Scotus possibly. So I come down here, weight room, and meet her. First of all, she's 5'10", and she averaged 29, which is good, but it's different. It was 6-on-6 there.
Yeah, in Iowa.
So this would be a transfer back to 5. A change to 5-on-5. And she came, and she ended up started in volleyball. We went to a two-person, which was unreal back in that day, in the early 80s, mid-80s. And her and Mary Farringer did a great job. And then she becomes a first-team All-Stater in basketball. Chris does. I think she played at Yankton College afterwards. At Mount Marty.
Okay.
And just a great kid, doctor now, out in Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she is.
And I get a letter, and we exchange Christmas cards every year.
Oh, neat.
Still, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like the 90s, Megan Tooley.
Megan Tooley was a setter in volleyball and then a guard in basketball. And, we won the state championship in '90 with her. Just a great kid. Mm-hmm. My daughters are great friends with her, and I see her every once in a while. Yeah. I think she lives in St. Louis.
Okay. Rhea Wemhoff.
Rhea is maybe one of the toughest kids I've ever coached. I mean, that kid was back then when she was playing. I would play a lot of times open gym with them. Boy, you got to play. Yeah. I mean, she'd knock you on your butt. Yeah. And just the toughest kid. I remember she broke her nose one summer, and she had to wear a face mask, and it was so hot in our gym, no air conditioning. But she'd be going, and pretty soon she'd have that mask up, say, Rhea, put that thing back down there. Mm-hmm. She'd put her down, but she was just a great kid. Great volleyball, nice volleyball player, great basketball player.
Yeah, she played at Dillon. I mean, she was tough. Those Wemhoff girls were tough.
Yeah.
In the 2000s, then, what about Jen Sackett?
Jen Sackett was a great setter, not very big, but great to work with. I mean, great work ethic and consistent. I think she ended up playing volleyball at St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. And her sister Amanda, both of them, they're just great kids.
Yeah, and Jen just moved back about a year ago.
She's back here.
It'd be nice to have her back.
She's got a little. I saw her daughter up here, maybe one of the basketball things.
Yeah. Monica Bodine.
Monica Bodine ended up being really a nice player, good basketball player. She had a few injuries that kind of held her back a little bit, but she was tough, another tough kid. I remember one of the biggest ones was the 2009 team. She gets a big kill at the end of the match to win it, to make it be 15. Mm-hmm. And then she played basketball or volleyball up at Briarcliff. Just a great kid too.
Yeah. We'll do one more here. Kara Moore.
Kara Moore was kind of a very good volleyball player, good basketball player. The thing I remember about Kara, again, great work ethic. I mean, and all those kids you mentioned, great work ethic. Most of my players were that way. But so she's a junior. She's all-state libero. The next year, and we win the state championship. The next year, in 2012, she's on that team. I have to move her to setter. I mean, she wasn't very big, but great hands, just a great leader. I didn't want to, but I just didn't have the replacement that I needed for her. So she just go from a libero and all-stater. And we talked about it, and she was okay with it. And we ended up getting beaten in the state finals, and against a really good Kearney Catholic team. Yeah. But so that's the kind of kids I've.
Yeah, Chrissy always said she was so tough. Like Chrissy coached her too in soccer, just tough kid.
Oh yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Well, we're about ready to wrap it up here, but I just want to personally thank you. And we touched on it, but your impact on so many, former students and athletes. I never played for you, obviously, but I was taught by you. And I told Merlin this too. I mean, our math department was incredible, and if I wasn't a PT, I'd be a math teacher just because of your impact. And then obviously I took a lot of the things that it kind of always picked your brain a little bit, when you were coaching. But just personally thank you for being such a great role model for so many more students and players over the many years.
Well, I appreciate that, John. I mean, that's what you hope. I don't want to, you want to be more than just a volleyball coach or a basketball coach. You want to be somebody that was, and some people said, you're just teaching math. I said, but that's what my salary is. Most of my salary is a math teacher. I want to be a great as good a math teacher I can be. I'm not ever saying I'm as a great math teacher. Just like I wouldn't say I was a great basketball coach or a great volleyball coach. You want to be the best you can be at it. Yeah. And I think, I worked really hard at it. And that's all you can do.
Yeah, and I just think so many former students, obviously I know firsthand, my wife, just a lot of people just hold you in such high regard. So you've impacted a lot of people in so many different ways that you probably just don't even know. So I want to thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, John.
Well, final question here. And over your many years, how would you describe Scotus Central Catholic in one word?
Well, I told you. I just said family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's such a family atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. From the students, the girls I coached, to the parents, to the administration, the other teachers. I've just been so blessed to be around the staff. Great staff. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mabel Picard, when I came, what a great mentor she was even for me. And I taught previously 5 years, but she was just what you'd epitomize in being a great teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was right across the divider from Merlin Lom, great math teacher. You know, Julie Blauser, great math teacher. Tom Sayer, great math teacher. I mean, I was fortunate to be a part of a staff like that. And the other coaches, I mean, you can just go down the line, Jim Pitts, Gary Pitts, Vern Younger, Frank Spinseri, you know, and so many, and all my assistants. I mean, I don't mean to leave anybody out, but I've just been in a great place. And back, you know, and the parents, I've had so little. I mean, most of the parents have been so good to be around and supportive, and the fan base that we have, unbelievable.
Yeah, it is a special place, and you know, well, wishing you good luck tomorrow night. I mean, obviously, I think you guys have had an amazing basketball season, and I'll be bringing Coach Ritter in here at some point too to talk on the podcast. But I appreciate you taking your time. Coach, I thank you for coming in for part 2 of your story and history here at Scotus. It was great to hear from you again, and thank you for your many years of service to Scotus Central Catholic. It's been a blessing to be taught by you, and your influence on myself as a coach is priceless, and your impact on so many of us here at Scotus. We truly are grateful for you. If you are interested in hearing more Shamrock Green Room podcasts, subscribe to us and rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on our social media channels, Scotus Central Catholic on Facebook, X, and YouTube, and Columbus Catholic Schools on Instagram. If you have some stories that might work well for us here on the podcast, please email me at coachbrez@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us in the Shamrock Green Room.